They made me mad this week. I don't like it. Not one bit. I gotta tell you about it because I'm not happy. Let's get into it. The big news in the plant world this week was they updated the USDA Hardiness Zone map. And this is the first update to the map since 2012, and a lot of people are talking about it. But I disagree with the changes. I think they got some stuff wrong, and I've got proof behind it. Let me tell you why. So first of all, let me show you the 2012 map. You can see this here versus the updated map for 2023. You can even look or pause and just kind of compare these two for a moment. But as you can see, the zones have somewhat shifted northward. So most people in the US ended up being about a half a zone warmer than they were previously listed. Now, the USDA is claiming that this is a more accurate map than the 2012 version because they used nearly twice as many weather data collection points to create this map. So you will see a lot more detail on the map when you zoom in on it. In fact, some cities are cut in half and you will see one zone for half of the city and one zone for the other half of the city. Now, while this map is more detailed, I don't think that it's actually more accurate like they're claiming. And that's because of the weather data that they chose to use in order to create this map. I do think that they have somewhat cherry picked this data. So where we are here in Wichita Falls is zone 7. It always has been, at least for all of my life and quite a bit of time before that. But now all of a sudden, we're in zone 8 in Wichita Falls, and I disagree with this. The other thing I don't like about this is many of us gardeners identify strongly with our USDA cold hardiness zone. For example, when I go to these nationwide conferences, that's one of the first questions we all ask each other is, what zone are you? What zone are you? I've always been zone 7. I can't go in there and say I'm zone 8 now because I'm not. Now, the weather data that they used to make this map was actually weather data from 1991 till 2020, which is 30 years of weather data, which sounds like quite a lot of data, and it is. But coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, that 30-year period was one of the warmest 30 years in the history of the US. However, right before that window of time and right after that window of time, we had some extreme cold temperatures that got excluded from this data. Now, I looked this up for my city because I had a feeling about this and I wanted to make sure that my gut feeling was correct. But I would encourage you to look up the weather data for your city as well. So when I look at the coldest temperatures ever recorded in my city, you can see that this weather data goes back multiple decades, almost 100 years, and it's showing our coldest temperatures. What you won't see in that list is anything from the year 1991 to 2020. So all of the coldest temperatures ever were in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, skips 30 years, and then jumps to 2021 when we had the horrible Arctic blast that we had here in Texas. I have a few other things to talk about before we go. One is, if you actually get into the fine print of how to use this map and what it means, there are some details that the normal person probably doesn't know. One is that this map is based on the average annual extreme minimum winter temperature. That means it does not include the coldest it's ever been or the coldest it ever will be for your area. So they are taking into account the extreme situations that could potentially kill plants that are listed for your zone. However, by shifting the zones northward, I think they're going to confuse new gardeners and people that aren't as knowledgeable about what those zones mean or are just getting into planting plants around their landscape. In my opinion, if you live in zone 8, then zone 8 plants should survive almost every winter you ever had, with just a few exceptions of maybe once in a lifetime events where you have extreme cold. But where we live, at least, zone 8 plants get regularly killed by winter here at least every 3 to 4 years, sometimes even more frequently than that. So what's going to happen is over the next decade or so, since we're going to be stuck with this new and improved map, people like me are going to have to be dealing with customers who have gone to big box stores or purchased plants online that are for their zone and then have those plants die over winter, and then they're going to be confused or angry as to why that zone 8 plant is not working for them. The USDA needs to think a little bit more like a gardener or a consumer of plants because They're just going to cause confusion and heartache for people that think that their plants are going to survive most years when in fact they might not. Now, I will say that down in the fine print, they do give a little bit of credit to folks like me because they say that you should consult with other knowledgeable producers and gardeners, such as established nurseries or master gardeners that have extensive expertise with the conditions in your locality. It doesn't matter, I guess. We're stuck with this map for at least 10 more years because once the government does something, they don't really ever backtrack or change their minds about it.